So today we're talking with homeschooling mom Kaitlin Zara about embracing the beauty and challenge of boys in motion, homeschooling active sons.
Welcome to Homeschooling Saints, the podcast that helps you create the homeschool you love for the people you love. Our host is Lisa Mladinich, a Catholic life coach, TV host, best-selling author, and an instructor at Homeschool Connections.
Before we get started, remember to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the bell to join our channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Mladinich, your host, and today we're talking with Kaitlin Zara about boys in motion, homeschooling active sons. We've had Kaitlin on a couple of other times this season, so I'm going to include those links in the show notes. But Kaitlin, it is great to have you back. Good to see you.
It is so good to see you, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. So, Kaitlin, why is this topic of active boys and homeschooling? Why is it so important for homeschooling parents to hear this?
Lisa, how honest can I get with you?
Give it to me straight, girlfriend.
The last few weeks of homeschooling have been less than ideal. It's been hard. We are moving into a new season, literally and figuratively here in New York. It's getting cold. We are home and inside more. And homeschooling two boys, ages 7 and 4, is a tremendous blessing. It's a tremendous joy. But my goodness, do we have some knockout, drag-out wrestling matches when we've got a lot of homeschool on the agenda for the day and not a lot of movement. And I have been looking, like a lot of moms have, on Pinterest, on Instagram, looking for inspiration, looking for new and fresh ideas of what we can do, invigorate our homeschool as we move much more inside in this season. And I have to say, a lot of the preparation and the thought I'm putting into my lessons is kind of falling short when I've got really active boys.
So what I think I hear you saying is you're doing your best. You're a thorough person. You're a planner. We've talked about this. But when you look at this kind of Pinterest perfect, I think was an expression I've heard you use, images of homeschooling, somehow it's just not really clicking. You're not getting that picture perfect situation.
I'm not. And you know what? As a woman, the ideal situation that I'm seeing, reflected on social media is of children gathered around with teacups and blankets and reading. There's a lot of crafting, and those look like fabulous ideas to me. And I have to say, we do a little bit of them and we try it, but it is not, long-lived, because I've got these really energetic boys who are craving movement, are craving activity. And I am learning a lot about myself, about my sons, and about homeschooling through this possibly frustrating situation.
Yeah, I love that you said learning about yourself too, because I feel like women in particular, I'm sure there are plenty of men who feel this way too, but we're hard on ourselves. And we do the compare thing sometimes without realizing it because there's so many images. But would you mind just speaking to that a little bit more? What's it doing in you?
I think that the message I'm receiving when I pray about this is that Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, all of it is a fabulous resource. And as someone who is the self-proclaimed unexpected homeschooler, I learned so much about homeschooling through, looking online, but that these ideas are just meant to be, a leap ahead, something exciting for me to look at and take inspiration from. But I should never, judge my self-worth or how well my homeschool is going and my lessons are going based on a comparison to what I'm seeing. And I think that I'm also really learning that although I could look at my children's activity level and their need for movement throughout the day as a negative and think that they should be able to sit for longer lessons or stay inside longer, I actually, Lisa, I'm thinking more about myself. And I don't mean this to come across negatively, but looking at my own faults. Maybe my ideal structure and organization and my goal setting for the day and my lessons is a reflection of who I am, but it doesn't have to be a reflection of what a 7 or 4-year-old should do. So when I feel, and I know you spoke to this quickly, our self-worth as a homeschooling mom, when I feel that the day is not going the way I want it to, that a great read aloud ends with a little bit of running circles around my house or throwing some toys up in the air and Legos being everywhere and boys wrestling playfully and with love, it's really not a reflection of a failure. Perhaps my planning was a little bit rigid. Perhaps I need to see how God is going to refine me through this process of homeschooling two very active, energetic boys.
I love that. So much of the homeschooling ethos is who is my child. As Catholics, we believe they're unique and unrepeatable. They're purposed, and their talents and their tendencies all need to be redeemed, just as ours do. You just said God is refining you. But there's a certain amount of just embracing and celebrating what God has made.
Absolutely. I feel that way so much. I think all the time, why was I gifted two boys? And I think that when we reflect back to whatever, your family looks like, to say, okay, these two boys are here for a reason. I was meant to be their mother and homeschool teacher, and they were meant to be mine and teach me something too. And what a gift it is, as you say, about the individuality. In a classroom setting, in a traditional school, there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity for individualized learning and for activity the way that we can find it at home. And so I realized that the ideal snapshots I might see on social media, they are ideal for that family. And what a blessing. How fabulous for them. And if I were to somehow start to post my family, someone else might say, you know what? All that activity, that looks pretty fun to me. The chaos of a hustling, bustling, loud home is a blessing, and it's fun. So I really appreciate that for what it is as well.
Yeah. And it's not easy, especially when you're getting a lot of advice, right? What are some of the typical recommendations you've tried maybe that didn't work out?
Ooh, well, I've heard my son, who's 7, is a second grader now, and I've heard the same advice for a few years, which is always across the board. Everyone has said to me, take frequent breaks. And the idea of frequent breaks between lessons, between activities, sounds like great advice. I think it sounds really smart, but it has not worked for me. And what I have found, Lisa, is that when I've tried to implement frequent breaks in our homeschool, I find that things go off the rails. It's really hard to get us back to a lesson after that. And I always end up turning out to be somehow the villain because we were just having so much fun, Mom. How could you? You can't take us away from fun. No, we did work already. We're playing now. Do we have to go back? It doesn't work for us. It hasn't worked for us. And what it will result in is me, I would say, almost tearfully saying, oh no, the day is lost. I didn't accomplish what was on my list. What if we fell behind? What if now, just the playtime overwhelms the day? And I realized that that's kind of the purpose. We're supposed to have fun with it. We're supposed to rework it. We're supposed to have every day look a little bit different if that is what our child requires that day.
I love that. We're just going to take a super short break to hear from our sponsors. We will be right back with Kaitlin Zara talking about Boys in Motion, Homeschooling Active Sons. And Kaitlin, I'm going to ask you what helped you bust through all of this and start to homeschool in a more effective way for your kids. We'll be right back, everybody.
Hi, I'm Walter Crawford.
And I'm Maureen Whitman.
We are the co-founders of homeschoolconnections.com and proud sponsors of the Homeschooling Saints podcast,
which is here to help you homeschool more joyfully, more easily, and more effectively.
We want to thank you for listening.
And we invite you to check out our courses at homeschoolconnections.com.
And now back to our program.
All right, we are back with Kaitlin Zara talking about Boys in Motion, Homeschooling Active Sons. So Kaitlin, yeah, all the recommendations and all the stuff that you tried, right? You were humble. You tried them. What helped you to break through to your own way of schooling your boys?
I say this with a sigh because I've got a story for you. This happened about 2 weeks ago. I I felt that my son Rocco, who's 7, like I said, he was ready to excel to the next reading level. And that we had been at this place for a while, reading these books that were maybe a little bit too easy. And as I'm trying to teach him more, encourage him to read at his level, I'm getting incredible frustration back from him. So much so that he would he's tapping on the book and he was tossing it to the side, to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was tossing the book on the floor. And I felt this frustration day after day. And I felt dejected. I have so much to give. I'm here to give you my energy, my attention, and it's not being received. And I feel his frustration. And for all of my experience in a public school, here I was dumbfounded as a homeschool mom. What can I do to encourage him, but to also push him academically to the place where he is prepared to be? And one day, I can only say it could be the Holy Spirit. I don't know, because I don't think this idea came from me myself. But I said to my husband, could you start work a few minutes later? And could you take Rocco to the tennis academy to play tennis indoors for an hour before we start homeschool? And my husband happily agreed. And Rocco came home, and I handed him that same higher level book that had frustrated him, where we had never gotten past the first page. He read the entire book without pausing. He went to his room and insisted that he said in his words that it was a new life for him, that he could read to himself now. He sat on his bed and read it again to himself. It was to say it was a breakthrough, like you had mentioned, is an understatement. And I thought to myself, okay, we did something different today, something unique and something different. I think as homeschoolers, as moms who are taking this responsibility on to educate our children, we think, let's get all of our lessons done. And that activity at the end of the day might be a reward. It might be the fun and the play after the lessons. Well, Lisa, I was shown through this experience the power of exercise before learning. And now I have implemented that into every day that our schedule allows. And so I like to structure our day that we have exercise and real exertion in the morning before lessons, and then after lessons as well. And that has worked really well for our family so far.
That's exciting. So starting and ending your day of learning with activity, that makes so much sense, because I think a lot of moms, we sort of want our quiet in the morning. And so the thought of how do I get them active? Maybe we don't have someone who can take them to the tennis club in the morning, but we can do a brisk walk around the neighborhood together, or what else could we do?
I really want to speak to what you just said, because you said a brisk walk. And I actually did look into the research of how does exercise really affect children's brains? I've seen it in my own household, but what does the science say about this? And I found that research starting in 2009 all the way up to the present day says that about 10 or 15 minutes of moderate exercise will give kids' brains incredible benefits. So like you say, with a brisk walk, attention is better, problem-solving capabilities are better, memory is better, focus is better. And what I found especially interesting about this research was that although 10 to 15 minutes was sufficient for getting more oxygen and more blood to the brain for learning, 20 minutes was when it really, really peaked. And so I thought to myself, wow, reflecting back, those small breaks I was giving my children, those 5 or 10 minute breaks, were not enough to reap the benefit that I was looking for. Wow. And the fact, again, what a blessing that I homeschool. If my child at this age needs 20 minutes to even 45 or an hour worth of exercise, I have the freedom to give him that and then to provide him with the best homeschool day that we can have.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love something in my learner brain likes to know the 20-minute mark. Like even if you couldn't do an hour today, maybe usually they get an hour of play and exercise in the morning, but if you could just get to that 20-minute mark. And I know I've talked to my husband about this. When I can get to the gym in the morning, I cognitively, and I'm in my 60s, I feel better, clearer, calmer for the rest of the day. It actually has obviously benefits for all of us, but their brains are developing. So what a beautiful thing to teach them about themselves.
I couldn't agree more. And what a gift, like you said, it is to give them tools that can make them the most confident, happy learners. My son is such a smart, capable boy. And I felt that exercise that day, it unlocked it for him. And I can tell you the rest of the day was so joyful. He was so proud of himself. We were praising him. It was so fantastic. And what an easy tweak to implement into our schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So as we're kind of just encapsulating this topic, Kaitlin, and giving this simple recommendation, what should we leave our listeners with? What's most important?
I just want to speak to that homeschool mom's heart who's homeschooling boys that sound a little bit like mine, who end up tossing and turning and wrestling and running around the house. Mama, I hear you. I know it can be overstimulating. I know that your experience in your day-to-day might not look Pinterest perfect, like we mentioned, but your version of your homeschool where your children are loved and you are working hard to refine what works best for them, that is the perfect homeschool. So please, if you are listening and you feel this, take that deep breath. Remember that you can continue to ask and pray for the answer, and you can continue to refine the way that you do things. And as we know, our kids will require new things of us at every stage. My 7 and 4-year-olds require things from me and different structure to the day than they did when they were toddlers. And I'm sure, and Lisa, you can speak to this, as they get older, they will need other things as well. So the takeaway is to just keep trying new things. Keep trying new things. Try the advice that you've been given. But when it doesn't, and if it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board because you will eventually figure it out.
Yeah, and they're hitting developmental milestones all along. And as you know, as a trained educator, those are things not all of us have training in. And so thank you so much for speaking from the heart, Kaitlin. And I just want to say to everybody, and I'm teasing this out because it's something you and I are extremely excited about. Kaitlin is going to be taking over this show as our host next season. And we're going to tell you lots more about that in the coming days. But I just want to say that you're in that season of life now to be of heart and mind in that unity with our listeners. And we're so excited about it. So everybody, please pray for Kaitlin and her family as she moves in this new direction. We are so just thrilled that Kaitlin has agreed to take it over for next year. So You're going to be hearing lots more from this lovely lady.
Thank you, Lisa. I am tremendously excited. Doesn't really express it. I don't know that I could find the words to express it. I am that excited. So thank you very much.
Yeah, amen. Everybody, thanks for being with us. You can reach Kaitlin at Kaitlinzara at gmail.com. You're going to hear lots more from her. Again, that's KAITLINZARA at gmail.com. That's in the show notes. And again, Kaitlin, thanks a million. It's just a joy to be with you.
Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you, everybody. Have a great day. We're praying for you. Please pray for us too. Bye-bye now. And that's our show for today. Our program is sponsored by homeschoolconnections.com. Be sure to subscribe to Homeschooling Saints and leave us an honest review. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.